That was what was prevailing from Hume, says your friend. I'm just recounting what your friend said as a review. Okay. That was what was prevailing. And then now, Zipporah is saying that Kant comes in, Immanuel Kant. The Immanuel is an I. In the exam, if you write the Immanuel with an E, it means you didn't attend lecture. I'll circle all of them and subtract 5. I will do it. So I've told you already. So that I will catch those who don't come to class. Because there are certain errors when you commit it in the 4th year after MPhil, it speaks of your undergraduate training. It means the training at the undergrad level wasn't firm, wasn't strong enough. So when you're doing your coursework at MPhil, you struggle. It shouldn't be so. So I will not let certain things pass. Okay, so Madame now Zipporah is saying that Kant then comes in to build on what the earlier lady said. Kant says, as for me, I don't think that anytime there is a synthetic truth, synthetic tantamount to equivalent to matters of fact, I don't think that the synthetic truths are what? Contingent. I can have some of them, certain synthetic truths that I know for certain. I am certain of them. It's not a try or luck. It's not maybe. It's not sometimes true, sometimes false. No. Because that is how synthetic truths would normally be. If I say it is raining, it will be true this minute, it could be false the next minute. But a bachelor is an unmarried adult male, or better still, A is A, or all backing dogs back. These are typically necessarily true. They have their truth value already with them. So Kant is trying to say that the contrast that has been created, he can bridge it because he can now have synthetic truths that, not all synthetic truths, at least for starters, but there are certain synthetic truths that he knows them for certain, meaning that there has to be something fundamentally wrong with the demarcation done so far. That's what Zipporah has said. It's just that I've used big language to speak, but she has captured that. That Kant says synthetic truths can be certain. Some of them can be known with what? A priori universality. Are you writing your notes? And a priori certainty. A prioriness meaning prior to experience, they have necessity and universality attached to such concept. If it is so, then how is that possible? That is where we got to last week. How we can't account for the possibility of a synthetic truth yet known a priori. Take your text, please take your book. I gave you a reading to go and do, and I said I'll open for you to submit. Is it true, Mr. Chamba?
Yes, please, Doc. You said
Very good. So you are all waiting to do that submission, right? You have the one paper there.
yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Let's continue. That's good. It means then you would have read, hopefully. Okay, so that is where we got to. Thank you, Zipporah. Thank you, Kashiga and Annabelle. I know you wanted to say fine things. I just wanted a starter. They pushed me, so we move. Take your book now, please. So on the page that is page 199, we saw Kant and Hume. We saw what Kant's issue was with Hume. He gave instances of such synthetic truth. They are synthetic because they are not defining. They are not repetitive. Okay, they are not repeating. The subject is not being repeated in the predicate. So if I say every event must have a cause, I'm not repeating any meaning of a word in the predicate. When I say God exists, I'm not repeating the concept of God in existence. So it is not analytic, it's synthetic. Yet, such claims like causality, everything that happens must have a cause, according to Kant, can be known with what? A priori certainty. So I told you that if you move to the page 200, you will see a discussion on relations of ideas that the lady, I have forgotten your name all of a sudden like that. The lady who spoke first. And sister, what was the name? I want to reference.
Madam, please, patience.
Patience. Wabutare. She's Patience. Because you don't speak of it, see, I don't know your name. Okay, which Patience captured very well. It is on your page. The original text is page 200. You see it there. We did that. You see all backing dogs back. You see why linguistic truth is not a real contention between rationalists and empiricists, but rather truth about actual reality, truth about actual existence, existential truth, synthetic truth, truth about experience, whether or not such synthetic truth, that is truth about actual existence of something, truth about what's the expression for it? Information giving statement, they are not redundancies. Whether we can have such truths and know them with a priori certainty, certainty that does not depend on our observation of it, so to speak. That page tells you that that is the actual contention and not about language. Then we turn over to your 201. You see the in the text box there, analytic synthetic distinction again, built on. It says in this way, a synthetic proposition affirms or denies the existence of something and is therefore called existential. I just told you that. So you see that at the page there. Then the title there is there synthetic a priori knowledge? This is where the discussion begins. Look at it very well. Kant accepts that there is at least some synthetic propositions that are known a priori. If it is a synthetic proposition and it is known a posteriori, that doesn't generate much contention for both of them, really. If it's synthetic and it's, I mean, how will we know whether it's raining at Mungwa? Ask Plato. Plato is a extreme rationalist. We'll say, oh, we have to call or see or hear or touch. Yet he's rationalist. Okay? But he will depend on the senses for that. Why? Because that is not in contention. How will I know whether someone is wearing red? If in case my something is covering my view. I mean, someone has blindfolded me, or I have a visual impairment. How will I know if someone is wearing red? I'll have to see to know. I don't conceptualize red or green. If it's rain, I'll have to stretch my arms and feel it. If it's a slap, the pain of it, I have to, and so on. Okay, you don't work a math or conceptual meaning of slap to know whether you have been slapped or. So the point is synthetic truth about experience, synthetic truth, predicate adding to the subject, existential truth, information giving statement. I'm saying the same thing in different form. If it will be known a posteriori, that is, if it is known through the senses, it will not generate any controversy. If I said that synthetic truths are known a posteriori, it wouldn't have generated any contention for either of them. Okay. The same way, if it was analytic and we said we knew it a priori, it might not be extremely contentious for the two views. What is the issue is how it is that the thing is experiential knowledge about actual existence, information giving statement. That is what it is. It's a synthetic. And yet, we want to claim that it is not a priori. You get that discussion on your page 201 there. Then we go to 202, which I asked you to go and read and find. So the first paragraph there tells us, where is it? The first paragraph there tells, oh dear. Oh, Senes, please, I'm teaching, can I call you back?
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone. It was from academic affairs, but I had to tell them I'm teaching. I'll call them back later. Yeah, I was saying that. So what? So if, where was I synthetic? According to Kant, we're on page 202 now. How then does he give an account? Kant, I'm talking about Kant. How does he account for the possibility of what? Synthetic a priori truth. It's not whether there is one. There is synthetic a priori. That's why he says, yes, there is knowledge about experience, yet known independently of experience. But how do we know that? Then he starts his. So that page tells you, he says that when we experience, in other words, when the five senses are at play, they work on hinges. Think of it that way. They are hinged on a certain framework. The framework, the frame, sending a dream for how you think is constituted how you experience, how you see. Seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, smelling are the five uh, experiential sources. When I'm seeing, I am at once seeing within a certain frame. A certain frame meaning that I wouldn't see if I don't assume that I am in space and time. Things, there we go. I'm going to introduce this big words now. Things are locatable in space and time. Our human faculty, mind, that is restricted by space and time. Our seeing depends on a priori categories. This is his language, categorization, that you don't contribute. It is already what experience entails. When I say I'm experiencing, I'm at once using the assumption that I am in space and time, that everything that happens must have been caused. That is how my mind thinks, simply put. It's not what is in my mind, no, but how the mind operates. The mind operates on the assumption of what? Everything that happens must have been caused. The mind operates already assuming that there is an underlying substance that holds our activities, whether mental or physical. So if it's a mental one, that's matter. If it's a if it's a mental one, that's mind. If it's a physical one, that's matter. So mind and matter as substances are already part of the categorization that our minds are already built into, sort of. It is like it's a built-in. It's not something put there. That's how the thing is. That's how the mind operates. And so Kant calls it the a priori categories of the understanding. They are categories of the understanding, not the sight, not the hearing, not the touch. No, it's a mind, it's the intellect that is structured that way, which then even makes it possible at all for experience to take place. Experience meaning the five senses to start working. In other words, there isn't an experiencing, whether it is a seeing experience or a hearing experience or a touching experience, that can't happen without the a priori categories already assumed to be. And he gives you two, it tells you there are 10 others. One of you may want to read the text because we are recorded, want to be careful with copyright, because this is a copyrighted material. But I can just pick out a few pages for you. If you look at the paragraph that starts, as we already have seen, it talks all the way to show you how Kant's way of accounting for a priori synthetic statement is different from how the rationalists would normally have accounted for them. The rationalists would have said, I know certain things about experience independently of experience because God put it there. Typically Christian, for example. I know who I am. How did you know? God told me. What God's word says is what makes me who I am, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Then you can also have the philosophical response, innateness. I know already by the theory of innate ideas. And so on and so on. Someone says, I intuited such synthetic truths, yet I knew it a priori because I did so by intuition, which is still a mental state, okay? But Kant says it is not like an idea put there. Substance and causality are not ideas that are contributed. So if you are looking at your page, you can check it out with me. Let's see. You can read from Kant's Copernican revolution consisted similarly in the startling announcement. That's where we are. Look at it. Have you seen it, please? Let me see if you are following. Has anyone seen the page you are dealing with?
Yes, please.
Just unmute it. Okay, thank you. Very good. Very good. So go with me. That's where your compulsory question is coming from. I don't know how I would twist and turn it, but it will come from this area. Reconcile with the others. Okay. And you will do fine. So let's go. It says that Kant's response is like the Copernican revolution, okay, which consisted in like a startling announcement, something that startles you. You are shocked by that kind of response. What was that announcement? There we go. That ideas. Remember, ideas, the idea, the concept, the quality. If you are talking Locke and Berkeley, you say the quality, primary quality, secondary qualities. Okay, the ideas such as substance and causality. Remember how I showed you in previous discussions, Hume's stress with those concepts as an empiricist. He just couldn't link them, find them in experience. So he threw them out with his extreme skepticism because he couldn't use experience to find, such concepts. So see, there's ideas such as substance and causality. Keep looking. Do not make their way into our minds through experience. He's telling him now, don't need experience to get them in. But rather what? And we are quoting Kant now because these are his terminology. A priori categories of the understanding. They are already part of ways that our understanding is categorized, is framed. So when we are observing, we observe based on the principle of what cause and effect. It's not a principle that has been put there. It is just the way the mind operates. The mind is grouped that way. It's category. You remember category mistake by Gilbert Rahab. That is how the faculty or the understanding operates. It operates on the assumption of what cause and effect. It's not an idea inside. It is how it is. So if you ask why do dogs bark, no, that is how dogs are. They are made that way. So they will bark. A priori categories of the understanding, like substance and causality, do not make their way into our minds through experience, no, but are rather a priori categories of the understanding, which we are still quoting him, which mold and shape and in fact constitute our experience. They mold it, they shape it, and they make up what we call experience. That is, in other words, I'm saying the same thing, I'm still quoting. That is substance and causality, along with 10 additional categories, are part of what we mean by experience. There we go. Take note of all those words. So when you say you are experiencing, the a priori categories of the understanding are part of what it means to experience. How can you then go and use experience to find the thing that is part of experience? That's the question. It is like you are looking for your eyes, the thing that you look to see. And you don't want a picture of it in the mirror. Him doesn't want that. I want to see the seeing, how my eye is seeing. You want to see how your eye is seeing. What would you use to do that seeing of your eye seeing? A mirror. You say, I don't like mirror. If you don't like mirror, then go and bend the sea. Because for you to see your eyes, you will use your eyes to do the seeing of your eye. And how will you use your very eye that you are looking for to do the seeing? When it is that eye that does the seeing, the only way is to look at its reflection in the mirror. You say you don't want that one, it's a reflection. That is the problem. So Kant says, look, when we are experiencing, that was just an analogy to make the point. When we are experiencing, we actually already are using the categories of the understanding. Those concepts like causality, like substance, he gave 10 others. I asked people to look for it to enrich their essays when they are writing. Like relationality, I think there was relationality there when we searched. Excuse me, possibility. And some to one concept will have its cognate, like its partners. So they are not different. Like possibility, necessity, modality. Some of them, like I said, belong to the same set in one. Okay. The gentleman is saying, Kant is saying, these things are already how our mind is framed, is categorized. So when I'm experiencing, where I thought I was only using my five senses, I'm actually using my intellect, the understandings frame to make and create and mold and shape and constitute the experience. So the experiencing I'm doing is not purely hands touching something. My hand will touch only as my frame, my mental faculty allows it to touch. There's something even more interesting about the space and time. Let me add that, and then I'll explain both together. So it tells you that is substance and causality, along with the 10 others, are part of what we mean by experience. Indeed, even space and time. There we go. Space and time are not part of the a priori categories of the understanding, no, but they are conditions. So let's read exactly what is there. Still quoting. Please, can you, Ransford, get your video off? I don't have a good bandwidth to then there to go off. Why? Let your video go. You focus on, or you need a light for something. We are online so that we don't see things that will make our a priori categories flare up. So we continue. even, indeed, even in space and time, in which substances stand in causal relation. Oh dear. Indeed, even space and time, that's how I should read it, yeah, in which substances standing in causal relations are enabled to appear at all, are contributed by our intellect. You see that? Space and time too, therefore, are what they are. City Campus did the marathon. The last I was very intriguing. I asked your TA to walk you through some of them. Maybe they will enrich you for your essay. So if you make time for tutorial, it will be in an advantage. Because he attends both sessions. So he said they are what? A priori conditions of experience. That is space and time. So the concept of space, time, that something is in space and in time, is a contribution that the intellect, your understanding, makes to allow for things to even be locatable at all. That is before you can see it. It is your mind that locates. Look, someone can be sitting on the room, I've told you, and we'll be seeing things that others don't see. Her mind contributes that. So she can see something. Your mind, remember, mind is non-physical. When we talk mind, it's non-physical. Some can think of it as spirit. Someone can be in the church room and tell you that I am in Nigeria right now, where the voting is going on, and I can see that someone, but the person is physically in the lecture. I didn't quite. I saw them and the church room there, and yet the mind can locate. It is your mind that contributes things in space and in time. So someone can go into someone's future. I'm just giving you the weird things that we hear, weird in quote, depending on where you find yourself. Word of knowledge. It can go into your future because space and time, space. It says I'm going to your future. And so scientists do time travel. They go and come. Some go into the future and come and tell Africa, if we don't hurry up, these people, the next 300 years or so, what they are going to be, we have to do this and that and that. Some too, that those people can tell you that you, the guy you want to be with, if you marry him 3 years until you're married, he'll beat you, you lose one of your cheek. So don't go into it. How do you know? He says, I went into time. Now, forget about all those extremities and come to what we are discussing. For you to see a simple table, see is experience. For you to see that there is a table there, the table must be locatable in space. Otherwise, you can't see it. Okay? And it must be in time. And I'm saying that when we start looking at Kant's concern, that is why when it comes to things that are not experienceable, they are not within the experiential world, what he calls the phenomenal world, which I believe by now you would have seen. When you are dealing with things in the nominal world, concepts and ideas that are not within the scope of our categorized faculty, if it's not within it, don't try to apply something like space and time concept, because your mind will only contribute to that when the thing is within the experiential world. That's why we can't conceptualize how an immortal being is the ultimate cause of everything in the world. Where was he before he created everything? Do you know why we are asking that? Because our mind experiences things in space and in time. How can there be a being that has existed all this time and will continue existing? Your mind cannot think about so the future's future after future of the future. How will it be? Your mind is struggling because of the limit of reason, because of the limit of what practical reasoning, and limit of what. It's a Kant's paper. His book is titled that. I'm trying to do my best with the elaboration I have here. So back to the a priori conditions of experience. There are conditions that must prevail, the conditions that must prevail for experience to be possible at all. But that's space and time. Things must be in space and in time. If you want to see, so let's use the God factor again, because Kant also deals with that. If you want to see God, for example, as presented in the experiential world, even God, at least from the Christian doctrine, had to take a human form, come and be in a human being and be born, so that he can be locatable in space and time. Because in the experiential world, you can't use concepts beyond the phenomena within the phenomenal world. It won't make sense to us. He wants to reveal himself to you. He has to put on a locatable. So either he becomes a human being, or he speaks through a horse to put a man of God on his toes, or he has to work through a prophet to warn someone, Moses, for example, to stretch. It is the power. They say the same power that resurrected Christ, whatever, that saved the Israelites from whatever, is the same power that resurrected Christ. What are all these things? Why wouldn't God just descend? No, we can't even grab it. If he's even talking to you, you run away. He won't fit into a creation. I'm not speaking church, I'm speaking Kant. Because creation and everything within it and the possible experiential world is working on a certain condition. Experience will be meaningful, possible, when whatever we are experiencing and ourselves, the being doing the experience, is in space and in time. So a God that is outside of space and time, who can change situations overnight, because time is not, he's not restricted by time. He's outside of time. Okay, so the limit that time places on us doesn't, I mean, that's our conception of such a being. Now, how do you expect everybody to conceptualize it that way? It's not something that is like the table or chair over there, where everyone will see that way. So remember Kant's advocacy for a transcendental idealist posturing when it comes to nominal concepts. And then with that, you see why he critiques Hume and Locke, telling Hume that you are very, very arrogant. If you can't find a thing there through the means you have chosen, then you claim that it is not there. Okay. That's arrogance. And then for the other person, Locke, his issue with him is you too, you are criticizing those who are trying to do that, and yet you are doing the same thing. You are making a defense for the existence of God and what have you, when you can't use the empirical to ground that. And so let's see if we are able to get there. Then we end our session nicely. What are we trying to show? How Kant account for what? Synthetic a priori truth. He says that so there can be synthetic truth, but we know it a priori. The a priori-ness is in the categories. The way our brain, our mind is framed, the intellect is already framed such that it can only experience things within that categorization of what cause and effect, within the categorization of what substance. They assume things are substances that are underlining things, upholding physical state, mental state. We already assume, that whenever we are experiencing, the object must be in space and in time. Okay, and what was the additional thing I want? So space and time too, therefore, are a priori conditions of experience. Remember that the statement before that one said it is the intellect that contributes that. Always remember, the intellect contributes what? The a priori categories. So even in experiencing, the intellect helps to create, to mold, and to what? To shape, to constitute our experience. There is no experiencing that doesn't happen together with those categories. Think of it like the saucepan that is holding the meal. We do eat the saucepan, but without a saucepan, you can't have the meal because the meal is inside the saucepan, something like that. I don't know if it was. One of you may want to read the paragraph after that. Always remember to say the quote so that we don't have copyright issues. Who is reading for me? Is it Francis Haite? Or Francis wanted to ask a question? Francis, your hand is up. Is there a question? Is Francis there? Okay, Tabitha, go ahead. Read from in this way.
In this way, Kant
So we are
redeems
quoting now. Yeah, go ahead.
Kant
Go ahead.
redeems ideas of causality and substance from the skeptical clutches of Hume. As far as the world of appearance goes, every event must have a cause. For example, it's a synthetic truth, but also possesses a prior universality and necessity.
If
We
it's
don't
your
have
textbook, underline that. Relax. It is a synthetic truth, but it possesses what? Universality and necessity. Just like analytic truth is universally applicable everywhere, and it is necessarily the case. That necessity is in how we think. It's not in what is out there or what someone put there. There's nothing in the mind. So you see, it's going to start by telling you every experiencing starts, excuse me, every knowledge starts with experience. It's experience that begins the process of knowing. But the knowledge doesn't originate from experience. Its origin there. It is more than just experience, but it is experiencing that starts the process of knowing. For you to know at all, the five senses must work. But as soon as the five senses start working, they already are sparked up by what? The intellect and its a priori categories. So experience begins the process of knowing. Remember Plato, this is some similarity. If we get an ignition from the switch, then the power which is already in the cables, all the way from Akosombo, will come alive. So it is the switch for Kant, if you want to put it in that way, it is the switch that starts the process of knowing. That's the senses, experience. Yet that knowledge doesn't originate. Its origin is not the airport where we started the traveling. I don't originate from there. I just started the process from there. So the knowledge is coming from what? Something more than just experience. There are other concepts, other categorizations, so to speak, that are not experienced. They are actually part of what it means to experience. Sister, continue, please.
We don't have any choice about it. We have to experience things as causally related because that is one of the ways our minds create experience.
Underline that.
If
That is one of, oh, relax. I want to help you understand, okay? That is one of the ways our minds create experience. You see what is happening? So experience is created by the mind. That's what Kant is saying. The long talking, and that's the point. When I'm experiencing, where I thought it's just my five senses at work. He says, no, it is my mind working through my senses. That is how it is. So senses are categorized that way. That's when it is, that's why it is even possible for me to even feel a touch, to even see at all. For me to even see the thing, I have to conceptualize the thing in space and time. I have to see it. Maybe conceptualize is not the word. I have to frame it to see it before I can use my eyes to capture. Okay, go ahead. Lady, go ahead, please. Tabitha, dear.
yes, if you are all wearing rose-colored, everything must appear to be rose-colored to all of us.
To all of us. Now, one of the questions, so let's read this one and then I'll turn over to the next page. So one of the questions that divides philosophers into two groups is the question of synthetic paper. Is it possible to know blah, 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 blah? We have said all that. Turn over to the next page, please. We are now on page 203. Some of you have joined today. I'm sure you don't even know that there's any text called Kant that we are managing to open out. Welcome. A prior categories of the understanding. Are you? Look at the major work, Kant's Critique of Pure Reason. We are on page 203 now. And when it was published and all, he set out to do two things. One, he distinguishes, can you see the third line towards the end there? He distinguishes between empirical and a posteriori knowledge. When he was critiquing pure reason, it means he was on the neck of the rationalists who believe that there can be truth that is arriving, what's the expression? Coming out of what? Pure reason at work without any infiltration of the senses. Okay, so he's critiquing them. So it will tell you that what he's going to say will be to the advantage of sort toward the empiricist. Then after that, he did a critique of practical reason too. So let's see what he says here. One, he distinguishes between empirical and a posteriori knowledge derived from sense experience and pure or a priori knowledge, which is completely independent of experience. See that? And he raises the question whether such pure knowledge exists at all. He raises the question, can we have knowledge that is devoid of experience? Knowledge. He says no. If it is knowledge, it will begin with experience, even though it won't originate from experience alone. Two, he establishes two identifying marks by which pure or a priori knowledge may be recognized and distinguished from empirical or a posteriori knowledge. What is that? Necessity and universality. That's why I asked you to underline that at the back there. So here is an instance. He's showing you are observing synthetic truth, something that is synthetic in nature, yet it comes with what? A priori certainty and universality. Every event must have a cause. Whatever happens must have been caused by something. Is it someone that has to tell us that no, it is just how we think? If it happened, then as soon as you say, what brought about? Who did this? What did this? We are always looking for causes. Why? He says it's not because someone taught us that. It's not tutelage like Locke wants to interpret. These ideas that seem to be there. We just know them. Locke will say, oh, we learned it, society taught us. The question is, who taught the society that taught us? It will go on ad infinitum. Okay. Then when you ask the rationalists, they'll say it was put there. By who? If it was there, why is it that children didn't remember what have you? The point of Kant is, it is already how we think. So if I start thinking, I'll use it. That's why children don't. Because when children grow and they are thinking, their faculties are alert, they will do what the mind has already, they will expect that something brought about something. Okay, so causality and the folks have universality and necessity associated with them. Three, it distinguishes between analytic and synthetic propositions. We've done all that. And explains the nature of synthetic and prior knowledge, both as being as essentially informative and also bearing the marks of necessity and universality. I think that you should do the reading of the rest of. So of the difference between pure and empirical knowledge, you read it in that paragraph. There. Then we go to Kant's Copernican revolution in philosophy. This is the last lap. Let me pause and ask if anyone has questions before we move on. So simply put, in one line, Kant says there can be synthetic a priori truth. So he agrees with the rationalists. But why? He says, oh, it's not synthetic a priori truth are not ideas that are in our minds, like some concepts that when you go and find it there, like the rationalists are arguing for. Okay, which the empiricists disagree with. Then it's generating a long contention. No, they are there, but they simply mean knowledge about experience, which is hinged on what? Some conceptualization of the mind, or categorization, I should say, of the mind. It's hinged on how mind is structured. The faculty operates that way. That is how the mind operates. It operates on the principle of cause and effect. It operates on the principle of substance. It operates on the principle of relationality. Things relate with each other, and so on and so forth. And therefore, for me to even experience at all, mind must, those a priori categories must already influence, shape how I'm seeing, create what can be seen, what is seeable, what is hearable. It's my mind that does the creation. The mind fractured in a certain way, structured in a certain way, framed in a certain way is what does that. It's not something that is inside it, but how it is already. Okay. And so that's what we said. We hope we have tried to help you understand. The next page elaborates a bit more. I think the author is quoting Kant, so some of them are repetitive. So repetitive. So we move on to page 205. I want to show you the transcendental idealism. Then we should be done. Read the rest too. See of the distinction. I'm on page 205 now, last paragraph. It talks about on the distinction between analytic and synthetic judgment. We've seen all that. The author is quoting directly from Kant now. Okay, so we can now go to page 207 and continue with the substantive matter. Later in the critique, down there. My lady, please read later in the critique. Tabitha, please read for us, eh? Or someone
Yes,
else wants
madam.
to go ahead. Please stay by your gadget. Okay, go ahead.
Later in the critique, Kant proposes how synthetic a priori knowledge is possible. Pay close attention to his insistence on the role of a priori concept as conditions of experience and the epistemological consequences of this, as in the statement, if by them only it is possible to think any object of experience. It follows that they refer by necessity and a priori to
To all
all
objects of
objects.
experience. Yeah. So the point, that paragraph just is saying that if you stretch Kant's argument to its logical conclusion, it will mean that every experiencing at all will depend on such a priori concept of experience, space and time, or a priori categories of the understanding, substance, causality, and the other 10. They will always be part of every experiencing at all. That will mean that every experiencing will be as a result of what? Synthetic a prioriness. Whenever we observe, which is synthetic already, it will be based on a priori. So every experience will now be necessarily what? A priori in orientation. That should mean then that it isn't only a few concepts that have a synthetic a priori necessity and universality, but all our experiencing will be built on those a priori categories, and they will be about experience. It means we can't know something that is not about experience. Knowledge is not reality. Remember, the phenomenal is not the nominal. Like Plato's world of appearance and world of forms. So if we are knowing knowledge, then it will be within the experiential, synthetic. So every knowledge then will be synthetic and it will be hinged on a priori categories. That is if you stretch Kant's argument, and the author wants you to see that. Then he talks a bit more on that. We can now move. Please turn to the last page that I think I will engage with you. That will be taking us closer to transcendental idealism. Go to the limits of reason. It's page 210. I will call someone to read right now, myself, so that I'll be sure that the person is listening and following. Let me see if I'll be led by the Spirit of God to pick someone. See answer. See answer. Bena come. See. See, read it. Let me hear. The limits of reason. It is on page 210, the middle there. It is important to note. Please read from there. See, if you don't read, I'm subtracting marks from you. Quickly. Quick. We have a marathon to do, so quick. Where is CC? But you have seen your hand there, but hold on. CC. I'm led by the Spirit of God to call you. See that you're not there. Okay. Where is Alex Jr.? Alex Jr., take the text and read. CC, you're in trouble. Alex Jr., it's the last lecture, so I want the fire to come down now. Alex Jr., quickly. You know there's someone to read, but I'm led to call you.
Hello, madam.
Go ahead, sir. Thank you very much. Read from the limits of reason for me.
Should I continue?
Yes, sir. The limits of reason. It is important to note. Yes,
Okay.
read from there.
Okay. It is important to note, however, the high price that must be paid for synthetic a priori knowledge.
Very good.
One
Now you
of
have
the
put me to
implications.
shame, Papa. You have shined not at all. But me, I've taken the shine.
Should I continue, doctor?
Yes, sir. Continue, grass.
Okay. One of the implications of Kant's analysis is that you can know nothing of reality as it is
Please
as it
start
is
underlining it,
itself.
everyone. Underline it in your text. You
One of
never
the
know.
implica- One of the implications of Kant's analysis is that we can know nothing of reality as it is in itself. What Kant calls nominal world, but only as it appears to us through experience. He calls this the phenomenal world.
This can
The
be a
reason is
quote.
clear.
I'm coming. I could quote this and ask you to do something with it. I will say, do something with this one. And people's pressure will go high because I won't give you a choice. I will say, answer that question. This is a priori.
Should I continue though?
No, don't continue. I want to teach you people a little before you continue. Wait. Hey, I can say this is universal and necessary. Answer that one plus one other. If you don't know, you don't know. But I think by now, yeah, you know. Okay. All to teach you. Alex Junior said, can I continue? Is that Alex reading? Alex, is that you?
Yeah,
Yes, it's you. Please
yes,
go ahead.
doc.
Take note of
Okay.
what Alex read. He says, Kant says, it's not that he says it all. The implications, what it means, therefore, will be that if the thing I am claiming to know is how it appears to me, then no qualms. It means knowledge will be how it is given because my mind is contributing to it. My mind is contributing something. How I'm framed is contributing. It doesn't have to be a specific me. It can be within our experiential world. As scientists, we see this way. Mm. But the point, therefore, is it will be like how it appears, not the thing in itself. The thing in itself, remember, is talking about intrinsic, inherent, the, the reality of it. That's what Kant calls the nominal. He says we cannot, not that we may not, we cannot know as it appears to us through experience. That is the one we know. But what the thing really is, we can know nothing of it. The reality of it, we cannot know its real nature. So we cannot know who really killed Asimesi. What really caused the earthquake that killed our brother? What really led to the so cause and effect reasoning. When we are looking for what really caused something, really, he says that is the nominal. What we can know, what we can know is what is within the knowable experiential world. So we will not sit all pathetic and sad and say there is nothing we can know about it. So no, we will keep searching, but we will be minded to know that we may not know the reality of it, the nominal of it. That one is not within the experiential or the phenomenal world. Okay, so please continue. I've muted you because William's microphone was noisy.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
The reason it the reason is clear. The a priori categories or concepts of understanding are, as we we have already said, we have said constitutive or of our experience, and therefore they have no legitimate application beyond experience.
Beyond
Causality.
experience, underline that they do not have legitimate application. You shouldn't go asking who caused God because cause and effect works within our experiential frame. So if you are conceptualizing a being that caused everything, you can't be asking the same, or you cannot be applying your limited frame. I think I've said this over and over again. By now, I've said it. If you are only playing the recordings, you see. Those are the implications. You can't expect to apply the principle of cause and effect and ask who is God's father and who is God's father's father. He's not in your limited space and time. He's not within it. So you can, it is illegitimate and people, please, can you hear me?
Yes, madam.
Can anyone?
Yes, Doc.
Thank you.
Yes,
Someone,
madam.
Madam, I heard you.
someone called my phone. Yo, thank you. I'm saying that. I'm repeating it again. I said it cannot be applied. Those same principles that work within the experiential frame. These are the implications. You cannot apply them beyond experience, beyond this in italics. Because when we say beyond experience, it doesn't mean that something that will happen 10 years to come is beyond experience. You're not talking immediate experience, but it's still within the experiential world or the experiential frame. But when we are talking concepts like God, like other like substance, like creation, like eternity, like there's life after death, those things. Kant's advocacy is this: look, people, we are trying to force our limited frame to ask and find, and not just find, but impose certain concepts that are not within the experiential. So don't apply them beyond that. Say, go on, please. Alex, please continue for me. Oh, but Alex, you are reading fine too. See, we're here.
Okay.
Hello,
Doc.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Causality, for example, applies to objects of possible experience. And when we try
It
to
says only
apply,
you. Did you say the only? Read causality
yeah,
again, please.
okay, causality, for example, applies only to objects of possible experience. And when we
Underline that.
try to
Possible,
and,
hold on. Possible. So it might not be immediate, but it is within the possible experience. That's why I said next week, next 10 years, something that can happen. It's within possible experience. It's still within our experiential frame. So we can check it. We can make claims about it. If you are not careful, our population will make us lose this, or we won't get water, or this galam say. They are all not future or beyond something that is outside of our frame. We can still talk about it, still within the possible frame of experience. Okay? Continue, sir.
and when we try to apply such concepts beyond experience, what results is nonsense and absurdities.
You see what is happening? That is why people are asking, what
Shall I
brush
continue, Doc?
did God use? What brush did God use to brush his teeth? If he has a beard, I mean, does he have a family? Why are you asking those questions? It will lead you to absurdity. A being that was somewhere before he created the other beings and other things in the world. I'm talking Christian faith now. Some really, by all means, there's a religious, any religion you belong to will ultimately say there is a being that created, even if there are other beings that are also deities. They were all ultimately created by an ultimate being, no problem. How can we conceptualize about them? That ultimate. And asking who gave birth to him. Because of your small little brain that can think about everything that happens must have been caused. So you are looking for a cause, for the cause of all things. That is Kant's issue, and that's the frustration that will lead him to say there's nothing that we can know for certain. And he's frustrated because you want to use your tiny little, you know, uh, car key, your car key to go and unlock Bank of Banners. Just an example, vote. Who told you that because you have a car key that opens your car? It must open the door to, or the vote to our resources at America. America woman is here, so let's talk America. Huh? And because it can't open, you say the key is not, the door cry is not a correct door. Take your small key away. The problem is with the key. It can do certain things, but certain other ones it cannot do. So admitting that limit is a sign of intelligence. Not saying that because your means, your empirical means of finding the thing, you are looking for that I that does the scene. You are looking for. Look at what you are looking for the thing. What do you use to look? The very eye that you used to look is what you are busily looking for. That eye. They've given you a mirror that, oh, if you want to see your eye, look through. You say, I don't want the mirror one. Okay. So boss read it nicely for us. I was led by them to lead you to nonsense and absurdities. I didn't say it. It's Alex Jr. that said it. And then, and then the last paragraph, I guess someone else. Alex, please read the last paragraph.
Okay. This necessary limitation of concept of understanding to the phenomenal world comes out where in the following from Kant's pre
Don't mention it.
prologue.
Continue, sir. Continue. In 1783. Hey,
Okay,
isn't this
it's
traveler?
as a simplified version of critique of pure reason. In
Very
this
good.
paragraph, intuition again refers to what
Those ones
we
are for
normally
when
might.
they do modern analytic, they'll go through all that. So since the oldest days of philosophy, blah blah blah. These are all narratives to help you. Now you have seen what we have to sacrifice. In the bid to embrace synthetic a priori, you now have to throw away everything that goes beyond the synthetic because it will not be knowable without the help of what? The a priori categories. And those a priori categories are what? Limited because they are working with what you can synthesize. I don't want to sound too technical, okay? So if you have to adapt the synthetic a priori understanding of reality, of knowledge, of certainty, no problem. But you have to let go of the possibility of knowing. The word is knowledge, knowing beyond the phenomenal world. That one can't happen. On page 211 now, everyone, please go because I'll call someone myself. That's the paragraph down there. Thus, if we have gained a priori certainty and universality for synthetic knowledge, it has been at the cost of giving up any knowledge of reality beyond space and time. That's what I just said. We now have a certain level of certainty, even about synthetic truth, experiential truth. There's a certain degree of necessity and universality that we can associate with even synthetic truth. We are so happy, yet it came at a price. Any other knowledge that is beyond the experiential world, beyond space and time, will now be rendered what? Not knowable. Okay? We have given up any knowledge of reality beyond space and time. You see the very important role space and time plays. Yes, because for the thing to be experienceable at all, it must be in space and in time. What contributes that your intellect can only grab things that are in space and time, and they can grab it through the experience. So if any concept you are dealing with is outside space and time, you can't know it. You can only believe it or faith it. Faith, have faith. You see, it's a faith matter or a belief matter. It is not something that is within knowledge. So there is a certain understanding of what knowledge, that's why knowledge can fail. Like the heliocentric view failed. Excuse me, the geocentric view failed. It's how we experience what the world appeared to be to us. But the reality, at least for now, is that it was rather the heliocentric view, which is still knowledge because we may find out later that look, the world is or the universe is bigger than what we thought, that the sun is just at one corner and not at the center. It's just knowledge. More knowledge will bring us closer and closer, supposedly, to reality. But we cannot claim knowledge of the real, the thing in itself. I've been engaging this concept in various forms and different classes from level 200, idealism, materialism, and then the Berkeley discussion, all the way to level 400, the concept of God, God, evil, and what have you. And I keep telling people, the fact that you saw God as the God that answered by fire doesn't mean he is in itself a God that answered by fire. He might be many things that you don't know. So what you know of him is what you can speak confidently of. But don't cut off the possibility that there is something else that he's telling you about himself now that you don't know. You don't want to even be open to it. Peter, rise, kill and eat. Peter says, I'm not eating that which is unclean. Those who don't do Bible, no problem. You can just Google it. I'm referencing that to help your understanding. Rise, kill and eat. The guy says, no, I am not eating an unclean animal. Because what was spread on the vision, he said, the spreadsheet there,